middle schoolers, welcome to another Tank Talk. Glad that you found us. Hey, today we're continuing our series called It's Personal. When I was in middle school, I was really into something super cool, super awesome, and super interesting. Well, at least I thought so. I loved Star Trek. In particular, Star Trek The Next Generation, the one with Captain Jean-Luc Picard, or Professor X. I would come home every day from school and decompress by watching their adventures into space, the final frontier. Now, I lived in a house with 7 other people, and I would often ask my family to watch with me. But I was completely surprised when time after time, no one wanted to. I was kind of okay with that, but I wasn't okay with that. It meant that when I would try to find a little time to escape onto the Starship Enterprise, my family would not stop what they were doing to allow me to enjoy it. Instead, they cared about their business and rarely considered me and the thing that I really loved. At that time, Star Trek mattered so much to me. It was personal for me. And because it was personal for me, I thought it was personal for everybody in my family. But I eventually realized that just because this mattered to me, it didn't mean that it mattered to anyone else. Sadly, it got to the point where I had to go to my mom and ask her to protect that 1 hour of the day from my siblings where I could watch Star Trek in peace. Maybe you can relate. Maybe you think everyone still cares about hoverboards or fidget spinners or rainbow looms as much as you do. But your dreams are being crushed when you realize that most people have moved on from those trends a long time ago. Whatever it is, we all have stuff that matters to us, things that are personal to us, and a lot of times we show what matters to us to the people around us. You see, there are things that we care about as individuals. I have my things, you have your things. Things like video games, or fashion, or sports, or music, or animals, or photography, or fishing. I don't know why you'd like fishing, but that's out there. And of course, there's like TikTok, or dancing on TikTok, or fishing and dancing on TikTok while photographing animals, whatever. It could be specialized, I don't know. And we also have our own personal values that matter to us, like being kind, or getting good grades, or having tons of friends, or making people laugh, or even following Jesus and going to church. And because we're so interested in that thing or believe so strongly that we value is important, it's easy to think that it matters to other people as well. We feel that if it's personal for us, it means it's personal for others. And if we care about something, that means that other people probably care about it too, or at least they should, right? Or maybe, even if we know other people don't really care about the things we care about, we still think that we know what they care about. Like the kid at school, or your new neighbor, or the girl on your team, or the boy in your small group. You don't really know them, but you think you do. You think you have them all figured out, even though you really haven't taken the time to get to know them personally. Here's the truth, we all do this. Think about it. I bet you can all picture someone in your life right now that you think you have all figured out. You think you know who they are, what they're into, and what they're like. You think you understand what matters to them and what they care about. And you've probably thought those things based only on assumptions or observances from a distance. You don't really know what matters to them, but you think you do. That's because, like we said, it can be easy to think we have people figured out. It can be easy to feel like we know people personally when we really don't. And while that may not seem like that big of a deal, I think it actually has the potential to impact both others and ourselves in some not so great ways. For starters, we tend to only hang out with people who we think are like us, who care about what we care about. And that means we leave out, avoid, or exclude other people we think are different than us. Not only does that cause us to miss out on some people who might bring a lot of great things into our lives, but it also leaves room for us to hurt them, whether we mean to or not. Or these assumptions we make about ourselves and others make about us feel like maybe we're the ones who don't fit in. Like we feel stuck, lonely, and misunderstood. We feel like nobody understands what really matters to us, like nobody really knows us on a personal level. That's why I love what Jesus did in the story of Zacchaeus. Jesus didn't make assumptions. Jesus made it personal by truly understanding what mattered to Zacchaeus. Before we get too far into the Zacchaeus story, let me give you some background on what was happening at the time. See, Jesus was becoming extremely popular, so more and more people were starting to follow him. He had fulfilled prophecies, he had worked miracles, and some of his sermons pretty much went viral. It's safe to say that people thought Jesus was a pretty big deal. In the story we're about to read, Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem and had just entered a city called Jericho. The crowd in Jericho was so excited to see Jesus that they welcomed him with palm branches and shouted Hosanna, in a term used to celebrate and express joy back then. It was here that Jesus had his last recorded personal encounter before he died on the cross. And that encounter was with Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus wasn't someone you'd expect Jesus to personally connect with. In fact, I'd say it was probably the opposite. You see, Zacchaeus didn't have the best reputation. Remember, he was the chief tax collector, which meant that he had to collect the taxes from citizens on behalf of Rome. The problem was that tax collectors at the time were known to be dishonest and untrustworthy. Most people thought they were greedy thieves, and so that's how most people viewed Zacchaeus. If anyone could have made the argument, I don't really have time for you, it probably would have been Jesus in this moment. But instead, a different story took place. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. And so he came down and at once welcomed him gladly. Based on how the crowd viewed Zacchaeus, I bet what Jesus did surprised everyone. But Jesus saw something about Zacchaeus that the crowd didn't. The crowd saw someone who greedily took more money than he should have. The crowd saw someone who kept all the nice things for himself. The crowd had every reason to assume that what mattered to Zacchaeus was money and wealth. But Jesus saw a grown man who had run ahead of a crowd and climbed a tree. He saw someone who was so interested in meeting the rumored Savior that he didn't care what his reputation was or what assumptions people made about him. Jesus saw a man desperately interested in finding hope. Zacchaeus wanted hope so desperately that he climbed a tree just to get a glimpse of the guy he heard might be able to give it to him. The people thought they knew all about Zacchaeus. To them, he was nothing more than a greedy, sinful traitor. The exact opposite of the kind of person Jesus should have noticed, let alone asked to hang out with. Jesus knew what Zacchaeus did for a job and what people thought about him, but Jesus didn't let assumptions tell him who Zacchaeus was personally or what really mattered to him. Zacchaeus made his interaction with Zacchaeus personal because Jesus knew what mattered to him. And the truth is, Jesus does the same for us. See, it's personal because Jesus knows what matters to you. Jesus sees more than everybody else sees. Jesus sees into the very heart of all of us. He looks past all the outward things like reputations and assumptions. And so the next time you wonder if anybody cares about what you care about, the next time you feel alone or misunderstood or just out there on your own, think about Jesus, who knows you in a personal way, who knows your world and knows what matters to you, who cares about the real you, not the one everyone thinks they know. Remember, it's personal because Jesus knows what matters to you. So what can we take from this? How can we learn from Jesus' example? Well, I think there are two things. We can make it personal, one for ourselves and one for others. First, we can make it personal for ourselves by talking to Jesus about what matters to us. Jesus cares about every single thing you care about. So tell Jesus what matters to you. Pray about it. Write it down. Jesus wants us to talk to him about anything and everything, just like we would with our best friend. And the more we talk to him about things that matter to us, the more connection we'll feel with him, the more personal he will become. Now, maybe you're thinking, I don't really know what matters to me yet. I have some interest in some things I care about, but are they things that really matter to me? If that's you, I totally get it. Honestly, that's normal. We're all constantly learning and figuring out what matters to us. And one of the best ways we can keep discovering that is by talking to Jesus about it. And second though, we can make it personal with others. In his encounter with Zacchaeus, Jesus demonstrated that he wants you and I to do for the people in our lives as well. To look past our assumptions and what we think we know about others, to make it personal, to take the time to get to know other people and discover what matters to them. So how do we do this? Well, we need to be intentional about getting to know someone. We need to look beyond what we think matters to them and even beyond what matters to us. And instead, we can actually get to know more about who they are by taking an interest in their interests. Start with one person who you think you already know things about, or someone you may have never taken the time to get to know personally. Talk to them. Ask them about what matters to them and then pay attention to what they say. Take an interest in other people, and you might just be surprised that you might have more in common with them than you thought. You may find that you made a personal connection where there wasn't one before. Congratulations, you got a new friend. Remember, it's personal because Jesus knows what matters to you. And because of that, he wants you to make it personal by discovering more about what matters to yourself and someone else. In your small groups this week, it might be a great place to do just that. It's a perfect place where you can learn about what matters to others and to show them that you truly care about who they are as a person. It's a place to share what matters to you most and then let them get to know you in return too. So as you head to small groups this week, I want you to be thinking about this question. What's one thing that matters to you? Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.